In this particular permaculture experiment, I'm endeavoring to utilize understandings from soil science to convert sod to a fecund, perpetual, low-maintenance, no-till food garden. Okay, so here's the garden, May 1st, 2020, and we're just establishing it. Before we started working on it, it kind of looked like this. This was all been in fallow pasture would be a good description of it for the past 20 or 30 years. There might have been a little bit of goat spot pasturing occasionally, but pretty much fallow. Then last year hogs were run in here. Then in the fall it was disked and an annual rye planted. But most of the green you see coming up here is the old sod re-rooting from its root pieces. So that's kind of what it looked like when I got here, and this is what it looks like now. The best way to kind of explain this garden and what's going on here is to talk about what it'll look like in a few years. So we have these hills of a mixture of soil and mulch, and within a few years all this mulch, the microbes will break that down, and that'll give me a rich, loamy soil, which will be weed free. And then there will be still a mulch ring around that new soil to separate it from this other area between the hills. And within a few years that will all be in a 70 to 80% legume grass mix, and that'll be give us also our pathways and allow us to do some interplanting of perennial herbs, maybe hazelnut, maybe dwarf fruit trees. There'll be a little bit of room to plop some of those around in between the hills. So that's kind of the long-term vision, or at least the next few years. In nature, mulch builds soil. In a healthy forest or grassland, the canopy is constantly delivering mulch to the soil surface. The networks of micro and macro soil organisms convert this mulch to nutrients for the canopy. The canopy photosynthesizes. Carbon bonds are broken, terrestrial life energized. And that's just the way things work on this planet. So I'm working within a bio-integrated agricultural model in which mulch is the driving agent of fertility. Through utilizing mulch to provide an environment conducive to dynamic metabolic soil activity, a system of increasing fertility can be maintained with minimum labor. By cultivating communities of microbes, fungi, and assorted qualities, worms, bugs, and roots symbiotically delivering nutrients to the photosynthesizing canopy, a photoelectrical chemical harvest happens. Carbon and energy become complexly ordered. Sugars and enzymes and stuff circulating in the roots, etc. So with this background, let's take a look at the garden and see what steps are involved in building it. So how I'm going about doing this. Alright, first I run a string and laid out my spacings on my hills. So you can see this row, I still have two hills to complete, and then I had this next row laid out. So what I did, I ran the string, measured off 5 feet from the row preceding, and then to locate this first stake while the strings run, I took equal distant measurements off of these two stakes to the string to locate this stake. So then that now ends up being centered evenly between those two. And then I measured off every 5 feet down the row, and so now I have some more shovel work to do tomorrow, which we'll show you. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate how I construct one of these hills. The first thing I do is remove the sod. So I start out about 14 inches plus or minus from the stake towards the side. I'm going to be throwing the dirt and dig a half circle where I just kind of cut it in. And I come back over here about that 14 inches or so off the stake, dig it in, remove the sod. Okay, now with the sod removed, I'm going to sift the soil here and get the roots out. And that's just a process of sifting, stirring the soil. So there we go, stirring the soil. Now, when you breathe, you take in oxygen from the air and you breathe out carbon dioxide. So, you ever wondered where that carbon that you exhale is? Where that comes from? Well, ultimately, it comes from the soil. Every carbon molecule, every molecule in your body, every molecule in every cell has carbon in it, and that carbon has come via photosynthesis from the soil. So your metabolism is infinitely connected with the metabolism of the soil. So we'll just continue sifting here so we got a nice amount of sifted soil. So what we're trying to do here with the sifting the soil is just to get the roots out. So, because we want the garden soil, or where we're planting, to be pretty much root free, to get the sod roots out of the soil where we want to plant. So we'll just keep sifting here, working it through. So now with the sifted soil, I take this spiffy little basket, or not a basket, put that in the center of the hole and fill it back up. Okay, so now we fill in around that basket with our mulch material, which in this case is sawdust. The other hills were wood chips, but I kind of used up my source of wood chips and was able to get this sawdust from a local sawmill. So now we put the sawdust around the hill. Spread it around, get it nice and even there. There we go. Looks beautiful. And there we have it. Now over here I have a slightly different thing going on. Rather than doing the circle hills, I'm going to do a long row, which I have started here, and I'll show you kind of the technique that's working for me for this, and take a look at that. Okay, so what we have here is we have the perimeter mulch and the root-free soil in the center. And how I'm developing this is the first shovelfuls I took out and sifted and put in a bucket, so I'm kind of always one shovelful width ahead of myself on this. So I could do a shovel's width, sift it, put it in, and I always have this little space in between there. So this is how we do it. Okay, so I ran that string to give me a nice straight line, and I stay off about a shovel's length from the string. Take out a clump of sod, sift it, then I'll take off this side here. I kind of do it at one at a time because with this big a chunk in there it doesn't really sift well, so I do it in 2 steps. And remove this one, and again it's the sifting, and you've seen how that happens, so we don't have to watch that. So now with the soil that's sifted, then I fill this trench in, back in with this nice rootless soil, and stay back about a shovelful, so I'm always at one shovel ahead. And fill that all in until the wheelbarrow's empty. So after the trench is filled in, I come back and spread mulch about 6 inches deep along the perimeter of the trench. So on any given piece of ground, the actual specific techniques may vary, but if you keep in mind the basic principles of establishing some root-free soil surrounded by weed-killing mulch that will grow into soil, and an admixture of legumes between the growing patches, you can't go wrong. Okay, so now we're going to start the process of converting the in-between here to a legume mix. So if you remember when we dug these holes, we had this pile where we had thrown the dirt. So we're going to kind of rake that out, get the root clumps out of there, and kind of work that up. Like that. And that looks pretty good, just like that. Get that out of there. And we're going to be seeding this with white clover. Now, white clover does a number of things for us. For one, it's a good. It brings in pollinators and other beneficials into our little garden micro ecosystem here. And the other thing it does, that legumes do, another key soil and plant nutrient is nitrogen. And legumes have the unique characteristic that they can take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into a way that soil organisms and plants can use it. And so in addition to carbon, nitrogen's a real key nutrient here. In fact, the legumes have a symbiotic relationship with the soil microorganism that helps to facilitate that. And these seeds have been inoculated with that soil microorganisms. So we're actually seeding that into our garden here too. So I just kind of sprinkle this around, oh, kind of like I'm peppering potatoes or something. You know, about, you don't want it too peppery, but you want enough that you can taste it. Just scatter that around like that, and then get those seeds kind of down in the dirt just by doing this. Give it a good work over. There we go. And now if the rains and weather's right, we should get some germination in there and start getting some clover in our garden here. The next step then, what we're going to do is mulch it, because you always want mulch on the soil. It's just better for all the soil microorganisms. It evens temperature and moisture for them. Now we don't want a lot of mulch on here because we want the seedlings to sprout up through this. So we don't want to make it so heavy. Whereas over here by the hills, we're trying to stop the plant growth temporarily. So we did that, and then over on these hills next to it here, we'll mulch that too while we're at it. So everything in the garden's mulched. So while I may end up planting corn or kale or whatever, what I'm really cultivating is soil life. Soil life is the foundation of a garden ecosystem. Soil organisms are the foundation of all life on Earth. Photosynthesis extracts random carbon from the atmosphere. Soil organisms integrate that carbon within life's complex matrix, facilitating more photosynthesis, more carbon extraction, more soil life, and on, producing the richness of fecundity. So in this gardening system, while producing food, we are also sequestering carbon. In the garden, randomized atmospheric carbon is structured and ordered in a growing complex living matrix. Carbon content is an indicator of soil fertility. The greater the soil carbon content, the greater the fertility. It is not the carbon per se that is the pollution, but rather its massive random dispersion. Fossil money's engineered chaotic dump to the biosphere is what is trending the biosphere to chaos and collapse. Growing soil life is antithetical to random dispersion trending to chaos and collapse. Okay, so that pretty much covers what's involved in establishing this garden, which was the intent of this first video here. Be sure to stay tuned for chapter 2, which is going to be planting and deer fence. So before I finish this chapter up, I'd like to end it with a poem. So hang on here. And the name of the poem is Dig the Dirt Dude, and it kind of goes like this. Dig the dirt, dude, down under your feet, down under the mulch, down in the muck. Intelligence swarms in complex arrays, bioprocessing hubs entwining, relating. Dig the dirt, dude. Root, fungi, microbes, bugs, and various crawlies thriving in what some call decay, enlivening forests and gardens of plenty. Dig the dirt, dude. Down under your feet, soil's doing its thing, supporting and nurturing land-based life. Wiggle your soil-made toes in the dirt. Moist warmth, pheromones, and enzymes precipitate growth's response. Spring's quickening, stripling's love, the soulful soil, humus's grandeur beneath human feet. Dig the dirt, dude. So I hope you found this helpful and interesting, enjoyable. If you did, please keep an eye out. Next month I will be posting chapter 2, planting in deer fence. So keep an eye out for it. And stay safe out there.